Countdown to kickoff continuing. Let's head out to San Diego with Ben Higgins, sports director of KGTV Channel 10 News and co-host of The World of Sports on Extra Sports 1360. Ben, how are you today?
Good. Glad to be with you.
The Chargers, let's talk about them. Number 1 in total yards. Number 1 in yards per game. Number 2 in points per game last year. Top 10 in points allowed on defense. Yet for such a talented team, it seems they always underachieve. Ben, why is this?
Yeah, missing the playoffs after finishing number 1 in total offense and defense is never a good thing. Special teams was a big reason last year, of course. The Chargers had 5 different punts blocked during the season. They gave up a couple of kickoff return touchdowns, a punt return touchdown, just constant breakdowns. A lot of injuries had something to do with that. They were shuffling in new players who just didn't quite have their assignments down. This year, they've hired a new special teams coach, Rich Bisaccia, who got a good reputation in Tampa for working with younger players. They've added speed to some of the special teams they drafted with that in mind. And the Chargers are hoping that with improved special teams and Phillip Rivers back at quarterback, they can take that step back into the playoffs after missing for the first time in 5 seasons.
Let's transition into the head coach, Norv Turner. It seems like he is always on the hot seat. What is the fans' thoughts on their head coach?
Well, the fans would always have Norv on the hot seat. Norv is not an impressive coach if you're a fan of your team. He's not the Bill Cowher square jaw or Marty Schottenheimer motivator that I think a lot of fans get excited about in the NFL. What he is a brilliant offensive mind. He's a coach who the players really enjoy playing for, keeps his players motivated. Can't tell you how many times the Chargers have gotten off to slow starts in games or in seasons, but Norv Turner never loses the team, always gets them to rally back, and usually gets them to rally and make the playoffs. Fell a little bit short last season, but wasn't for want of trying. They finished 7-2 in their last 9 games. What Norv Turner needs to do this year is get off to a bit of a faster start so they don't have to rely on an incredible November and December to get them into the postseason.
Ben, let me ask you then, what would be an acceptable finish, it seems like, for Norv to keep his job?
Well, they've definitely got to get back into the playoffs. The management in San Diego, owner Dean Spanos and general manager A.J. Smith, have shown an unbelievable amount of support for Norv Turner. Really, very, very little wavering in wanting Norv to be their coach and liking the direction the team is going, despite the fact that in his 4 seasons, the Chargers have gone to the AFC Championship game in his first year, won 1 playoff game his second year, made the playoffs but won 0 playoff games his third year, and then missed the playoffs in his final year. So 2-1-0 and then not even making the playoffs. That seems to be regression, and that's what fans point to. A.J. Smith says, well, we've had some tough breaks, injuries. I still like the direction we're heading. I would think if the Chargers get back to the playoffs, Norv Turner will probably be back. For fans to be happy, though, I think they'd at least want to see the Chargers make a good run into the playoffs, at least get back to where they were in his first season, making the AFC Championship game. But honestly, San Diego is not going to be happy until they get to the Super Bowl and finally win a championship. This city's been waiting a long time for something like that.
Eric Weddle agreed to come back when he was a free agent this offseason. How important is he on defense?
Obviously, Eric Weddle is critical because they paid him a lot of money to come back, probably more than a player that, of Eric Weddle's credentials would be worth. But the Chargers are betting on the fact that the next 4 or 5 seasons will be the most productive of Eric Weddle's career, that the interceptions that bounced off of his hands in the last season or so, and he had about 6 of them go in and out of his hands. They're expecting that being in the right position will lead to those plays. He will make those interceptions, and he will prove himself to be worthy of all that money they gave him. And there just wasn't a lot out there on the safety market if they didn't get Eric Weddle to come back. They were going to have to go shopping around for something that they weren't sure about. So they thought, let's spend the extra money, make sure he's a good character guy, he's well-liked in the locker room. So they said, we're sticking all of our eggs in the Eric Weddle basket, and hopefully he can be the guy that helps lead the defense to where it wants to go.
Here's another big name on San Diego, Vincent Jackson. He signed a 1-year, $14 million tender going into 2011. Of course, the contract disputes in the past. It seems like he is saying all the right things, gives a good quote, saying he wants to be a Charger. Can you see him staying, though, after this year?
I can see him staying if the Chargers decide to pay him a lot of money, which they may do so. I think Vincent Jackson is poised for a monster season. He's looked really good through training camp. He's obviously fresh after playing only a few games last season, so the legs look good. Phillip Rivers is extremely comfortable with Vincent Jackson. They are going to be a dynamic duo this season. The question simply is whether the Chargers are willing to make a long-term commitment to him. They could even bring him back on the franchise tag again next year. It would start getting even more expensive. I think he's making a little over $11 million this year. That would probably bump up to over $13 million on a franchise tag next year if they wanted to keep him that way. He had a couple of off-the-field incidents earlier in his career, a couple of DUIs. He was even put in handcuffs on the way to that playoff loss against the Jets a couple of years ago for driving without a license. Still made it to the game, but that made the Chargers very hesitant to reward him with a long-term deal. But he keeps his head down, stays out of trouble, and puts up big numbers. I know Phillip Rivers wants him back, and I would imagine the Chargers will at least do something to try to bring Vincent Jackson back either 1 year or for a long-term deal.
Only 2 professional teams in San Diego. How much of the city would you say rides on the Chargers' success?
Well, it's definitely a football town. I mean, the Padres fans are great, and when the team is performing well, Petco Park's it's a great place to take in a game. But San Diego has definitely become a football town, which has led to some nervous times. There's a lot of talk about a new stadium in Los Angeles, and the Chargers could be one of the leading contenders for a team that moves to L.A. As close as it seems to people around the country who would say, well, what is it? And a couple hours drive up there, they could still go to the games. Well, who cares? They're still in your region. I think San Diego would be wounded greatly to lose their team to Los Angeles. San Diego prides itself in not being Los Angeles. They really would love the Chargers to stay and be successful here. It's just one of the points of pride. And fan support's always been good. That wouldn't be why the Chargers would move. It would simply be the inability to get a new stadium here in San Diego. They sell out most of their games. Occasionally they come up a couple thousand short, and there's been 1 or 2 blackouts. But for the most part, fan support and the history of the team here has been outstanding. And you see Charger flags flying all over the town during football season. It's a good football town, and I've been to a lot of them. This one's definitely one of the better ones in the league.
Lastly, Ben, over under 10 wins for the Chargers in 2011. What do you think?
I'm gonna say over, and maybe that sounds overly optimistic, but they won 9 games last year despite the horrific special teams and all the mistakes they made. Schedule's probably a little bit tougher this year, but they only went 3-3 in the division last year. They had gone 5-1 in each of the previous 2 years. They get to back to that. That's the other 2 wins they need to get to 11. I really do see about an 11-win season for the Chargers this year and winning the AFC West. So I will say over 10 wins for the Chargers.